where we understand life a little better. So
That's what I'm looking for.
yeah. So when you
Understand life.
say, when somebody comes to you and say, I'm divorced and I have two children, you ask questions. Like you said, when you were 21, you were like, what? But now you're like,
Right.
tell me a little bit more about that. I wasn't compatible with that person. They weren't goal driven. I found that I was showing up in a relationship and they were not. Like I think we require at this grown and sexy and mature and non-ashy stage. We're at a stage where we can afford good skincare products. You know what I'm saying? Like we got a skincare regimen. Like when you get to that
I
level,
feel like that was shade
you
towards
start to
me.
ask questions, and then you don't. I don't think there's anything that's a deal breaker, unless you're a serial killer, like you on death row or something like that.
I
But
mean,
like your stories, like even if you have to have, I had to move my mom in because my mom is elderly. That's even worth the conversation. Like I think we've evolved to a point where you can tell a story and generally you have an understanding of life because you're at that point now where you're like,
right.
that.
Right.
I mean, I agree with you on that wholeheartedly, but I got to admit that I don't think that is what's going on today. That kind of stuff ain't going on. I feel like a lot, and I'm just going by just experience from my little dating thing. I think everything is microwave, where if they don't like one thing about you, they'll leave you alone, go on to the next person, or they don't. It's like I've heard people say this even online, and like I don't know how I can date in today's world because everything is like I gotta have it now. If I don't have it, I just go on to the next person. And I think the problem is social media. We got too much access to social media. We got too much access to things that we can have. And we think about our age. Come on now, we didn't have that growing up. We had to learn how to write those little love letters, or have that phone call. I'm gonna call you at 9:00. Have those conversations. And now we don't have that. Now we have everything that's fast paced. Everything is instant. And I think that's a problem. There's some pros with social media, but then there's some cons. And that's a con because I don't think people really get to know each other anymore. Instead, they go for what they want and they don't really build an authentic relationship first. That's just me.
I think that's when you talking about when you're dating someone and you say that they don't like one thing and they run. I think that's what you talk about, like the signs. Like you don't
red flag.
Yeah, that's a red flag if you got one thing you're running. And my stance on social media, we talk about social media all the time. Like that.
Yeah, he's not a social media guy.
My social media game is weak, and I'm proud of it. I'm great. Great.
I'm
Like I
becoming
get my
proud.
news from CNN on the TV. Like I don't need to be on the Shade Room and all those other places. Like I don't need all that stuff joining up my brain, and I don't need to talk to you on social media. Like that's my thought. Now there's a lot of beautiful people who are married and happy and wistfully and happy, and wistful bliss and all that type of stuff. They've met on social media. My thought philosophy is just that I don't need to meet you on social media. I'm old fashioned with that. I need to meet you in the park, walking your dog, feeding pigeons popcorn or something. Yeah. I don't need to travel with them.
I mean, I think you can meet somebody online. I think if you do it the correct way, I mean, you can meet them online and then build from there. You don't have to necessarily, you can go to the park and do that kind of stuff. But I think that's a pro in a way. In some ways, if you use it right, having these dating apps and everything like that could be beneficial because you could find. And I think, matter of fact, I just thought about something. Damien, I think want to speak on this one.
No, you calling him out, bruh?
What? What are we speaking of?
You talking about dating apps?
I do. Now, I do want to speak on that, right? Because I am, like I'm working on the content thing, right? So I do pay attention, and everything is social media age. When you're looking at apps, you swiping through, so it's like you're not even looking at people. It's like you're looking at video game characters and you're swiping. I do think that it's important, right? Yeah, like to go back to the question that you said, what is a red flag? I think you have to know yourself enough to determine what a red flag is, right? So it's like if you're a person who wants a committed relationship and then you start talking to somebody and you're getting that vibe like this person doesn't want anything serious, that is, and if you start to see that, right? So if you start to see person has all the same language that seems to coincide with you seem to be on the same page, and then you start to get a little bit along with this person, you start to know them, and you start to see those signs, red flag, right? If they're telling you something, and then the actions are other than, I mean, the signs are there, But it's like I know myself because I met my wife on a dating app, right? I think that's what he wanted me to talk about.
Yes,
that's where he's going.
Yeah, it's like because I was young, single out here in San Diego.
It's a positive thing.
It's a I think you're gonna find what you're looking for, basically, right? You're gonna attract what you're looking for. If it's not something that attracts you, you're gonna keep it moving. So I think by the time I found my wife, it was like, okay, I had lived life a little bit longer. I've become more secure in myself, and I just knew myself more, right? And I knew what I required. So I was able to make the determination of whether or not, I want to continue spending time with this person or not. I just knew that by the time I met my wife when I was like 30, 31. Yeah, it's like I had I've already developed like a sense of security within myself. I just stopped caring as much about what people thought at that age. And I just had become more secure about myself. So whether those, I had some instances where, some dates were set up and then the person's like, that was fine. With me, it was fine by that point. I didn't take the rejection of that, too seriously, because I know myself to know like what value that I provided by then. I knew that. Now, earlier back then, I struggled with that a bit when I was young 20s. And when I was dealing with situations where the person wanted to break or things like that, I was tolerating certain things. But that's because I hadn't learned to really value myself by that, at that point, But by the time I met my wife, I, lived life a little bit longer. So I become more secure within myself, So yeah, I feel like you just got to know yourself enough. Yeah. You got to know what is required of you. What do you require? You got to stick with that. That's how you determine what that is. You got to stay true to that.
Yeah.
Right. You got to stay.
Don't ignore the red flag and say, "Oh, it'll change."
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. You got to learn to see the signs. Be objective about the things that you see, because oftentimes, we can be so lonely or things like that we feel like we need companionship that much to where we'll look past it. But you should, that's the temptation, is to look past it, right? But I'm
a little guilty of that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, I'm guilty of it too. At some point, I've been guilty of that too. Yeah, it's like we didn't look past it.
And I gotta be careful. Yeah, I gotta be careful. I think the biggest thing you're saying that you're secure in yourself. And let me just say this, by the way, your attachment style. I already knew your attachment style. I know every last one of y'all. Well, I don't know about Q so much, but I know for sure I knew yours would be secure. That's one of the best ones you want to have, actually, because it just says that you're emotionally intelligent enough and different things like that for certain things. Me, I didn't do mine. I know mine is anxious. I can tell you, because it deals with a lot of emotional things, and I'm more emotional. But I also realize it stems from childhood, and I am not good with rejection. I'll be honest. Rejection, nobody is, for that matter. But for me, it's very hard to feel rejected, and I look at the root of that and know where it comes from. So I know that I need to work on that. I need to go to that root and kind of, I know what it means to feel like somebody's not there that's supposed to be there. Somebody's supposed to take care of me when I was younger, wasn't there to do it. Like, all those things stay with you in a relationship. And so my thing is, I tend to want a validation, because something too good to be true. I'm like, well, I want to make sure it's still the same. I want to make sure it is what it is, because I don't know if it's going to be real. And then what happens is I may do something. I might over text or something like that. Or I might do certain things that is like, okay, enough. When I should be secure enough in myself and know that if they say it, it's true. And I don't have to fear if they reject me. Now, if they reject me, I have to also understand that this is a part of life and these things happen. And I know that God can do it as well. So it's a learning thing for me. And I was just honest about that. But that thing for wanting companionship and all that stuff, I'm there. I want companionship. And so I got to be careful, because when you want companionship, you might go out there and do things you shouldn't be doing just to fill that void.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
I think too, like I want to add to, the rejection part. I have struggled with that in relationships that I have had. I felt like I gave it because I've always been a committed person. Like I ain't never been out here just doing whatnot. But my biggest struggle at the end of those relationships was me feeling like I wasn't good enough.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
That's what that feels like, And it's just like or feeling like all the effort that you put in was wasted. All the work, the consideration that you gave was wasted. And it's not the case. It just means that the situation was over. It just, it has run its course. And it's something that you could always learn from. But the end of that relationship, it doesn't say anything about who you are as a person, or your value as a person. I think that is something that you really have to understand. It's like you have the ability to learn from mistakes or whatnot. If you need to change or whatever, it's all opportunity at the end of the day, And it's like, okay, your time in that relationship has run its course. Well, you get time back. Now use that time wisely, right?
Yeah.
Use it. Reinvest it back into yourself. It was, you reinvest it.
I think
you were once invested in that relationship. Now go ahead and invest it somewhere else. Serve somewhere. Figure out yourself. Go to the gym. I always tell my young guys, go to the gym, man. If I can tell myself back in the 20s, go to the gym.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Go to the gym, and then therapy, things like that. If you need it, put them on resources. But yeah, man,
I mean, one thing I can say about me is that I actually try to do the work to better myself, because at the end of the day, we're not perfect. We all have our different things and issues. And I think the greatest thing that I like is that we're able to figure out what it is so that we can work on it. Now, I can't get down with somebody who know they got this problem and don't want to work on it. That's a red flag that I don't want to be bothered with, because I am more so I will date someone who's showing effort and that want to work on whatever area it is, because I know that they probably got areas they need to work on. And so it becomes a thing of, are you committed enough to do it? And I think it's so important as well.